all right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. We are here for Mock Draft Monday. Frankie, you ready to mock, baby?
I'm ready to mock it up, Johnny.
Frank it up, baby. Frank it up.
Frank it up.
All right, let's get to a mock draft today, guys. We're going to be doing... There we go. There's our beautiful board on Sleeper. By the way, we highly recommend Sleeper for your drafts and for mocks. It is superior technology.
Amazing.
All right, we're going to be doing a 12-team, half PPR, snake draft, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and a flex, 5 people on the bench. Frankie's going to be drafting from the 1 position, 1.01 for Frankie, and Johnny's going to be drafting at the 10 spot. So we're going to try to give you an idea on the front end, on the back end, of what kind of strategies we're looking at here. All right, Frankie, you getting ready here? Let's go ahead, baby. You're on the clock at the 101. What are you doing, man?
101. I got to choose anything I want to, baby. So, guys, what I'm leaning is, right, it's between CMC, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. In my opinion, you can't go wrong with either. You can make an argument for any single one of those. For me, though, I'm locking in JJ and solidifying that receiver spot.
Yeah. I mean, you could go Jefferson, you could go McCaffrey, you can go Chase, but
it feels good. It feels good to have like one of the best players, John.
You gotta go with Jefferson, right? You have to, man. I know. Yeah. All right. So after Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey was taken, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce at 5, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, and Tyreek Hill. And that leaves Johnny on the clock. All right. You look at running backs here. You got Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. Receivers. Yeah, really in this spot, man, I'm making a decision between Stephon Diggs, because that's a bottom of a teardrop for me for receiver in that second tier there. Or I'm looking at Nick Chubb. Now, in this position, it's difficult for me to not go Nick Chubb. Yeah. I just think he could be the 101 next year. Everything's looking, in a positive direction for Nick Chubb. I debate actually between Nick Chubb, Bijan, and Tyreek Hill. Those are 3 guys that are very difficult for me. But I'm glad I don't have to make that choice. So I'm drafting Nick Chubb.
Love that pick, John. Well done.
All right. Thank you. After Nick Chubb, we had Stephon Diggs, Jonathan Taylor, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, and then I'm back on the clock. Get to this position here, then I want to start looking at receiver. Running back, I could pair Nick Chubb up with Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard. I'm not sure that I'm feeling that running back, that double hero running back strategy right now. I think I'm going to go with a guy here that I still think has the ability to be the wide receiver 1 in any given situation. That's Davante Adams. I really like him. I think he's just at a good value. His floor, I think, is where he's being drafted, and his ceiling is number 1 overall, really. After Davante Adams, Jalen Waddle, CeeDee Lamb, Patrick Mahomes, Derrick Henry, Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard, and Frankie, you're back on the clock. Who are you going to pair up with JJ?
So this is interesting, guys, because I'm looking at right now from a running back perspective, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, you have Jahmyr Gibbs. You also have Kenneth Walker, right? None of those for me, and as in round 2, guys, are what I'm looking at. I'm looking now at receiver with Chris Olave, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf. So I'm definitely actually going to stack on my receiver here. And so I'm going to go, knowing that this is a 3 receiver team plus a flex, I'm going to go Chris Olave and then immediately come back and... Ooh, this is interesting. John, I'm going to snipe one of your guys that you've been targeting and that you really, really want. I think you're going to hit on this next episode as well. But I'm actually going to go tight end just to see how this works out. And I'm going to go Mark Andrews and lock that in.
That's really interesting. Mark Andrews is my round 3 target. That's a guy you really wanted here to show us because you took him in, 3.1 there. Yeah, I mean, I like what you've done there. Jefferson, Olave, it is a 3 receiver league and a flex. So it's going to be heavy on receivers, half PPR. But putting Mark Andrews out there, I really like that. You're starting to look at zero RB strategy here potentially, Frankie. You know, it's hard to know. You're not going to know. Listen, guys, when it comes to these strategies, I love zero RB is where you're waiting until round 6 or 7 to draft a running back. You're going to take a badass tight end in Kelsey or Andrews. You're going to take a badass quarterback, and then you're going to fill out your receiver positions before you go to running back. I do like that strategy this year. Don't go into it saying I'm going to do zero RB. Right. Don't do that. You got to stay water. You got to go with the flow. Let the draft come to you. And then as you're taking the highest guys on your list, then you can ease in. And it's after round 3 where you can really ease into, okay, the way this is shaking out, like Frankie's doing, I've got 2 stud receivers that are going to be great. I've got the second best, could be the best tight end this year. Now he can look at, depending on who falls to him, he's got 2 picks in a row. He could go after the zero RB strategy. Now he may look at it and there may be an RB that he loves and wants to put on his team. Then you just be open to doing that is all I'm saying. Okay, after Mark Andrews, Jalen Hurts, T. Higgins, Breece Hall, Josh Allen, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Jahmyr Gibbs, Deebo Samuel, and I'm on the clock. Right now, I'm not concerned about what strategy I'm going with. I'm looking at best available on the board at the moment. I've got a stud running back, a stud receiver. Looking at running backs, I do like Najee Harris in this position. Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, definitely are possibilities here. Tight end, since you took Andrews already in front of me, I really punt on that, and I may try to target Darren Waller later in the draft. But if I don't get Kelsey or Andrews, then I'm going to punt on that till around 6 or 7 probably. Look at quarterbacks here. This is an opportunity to take a stud quarterback with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Justin Herbert. There's a couple of quarterbacks that I think I can wait another round or 2 to snag. I think what I'm going to do here, Frank, this is, you know what, I'm going to take your boy here, man. This is an opportunity. I could look at it. I do like Najee Harris in this position, but I need to load up on receivers here. This is a 3 receiver and a flex league, which ideally I'd like to have 4 starting receivers. I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley here. I'm going to take a big shot, a big chance on your boy, Calvin Ridley, and see what I can do. That's right. After Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, Lamar Jackson, Joe Mixon, and Joe Burrow. There goes 2 quarterbacks like I talked about. Let me look at the quarterback situation here. I think I can wait another round on quarterback. And, you know, it was nice to see Najee Harris fall back to me. And I think that is where I'm going to go with Najee Harris here.
Yeah, that's a great spot.
To be able to get Najee in the 4th. You know, yes, he was very disappointing last year, but he was disappointing as a first-round pick last year. You know, I still think the volume's going to be there. The offense is going to be improved. Another year in the system for Pickett, another year in the system for Pickens. We've seen them have a good connection in preseason. Najee Harris, if he can get back to some of that pass catching ability out of the backfield, if he can get some more targets, the offensive line is improved. I like Najee this year. I think he's being slept on just a little bit.
Especially
Kenneth Walker. Round. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The 4th round. Right. To have it your RB2, to pair him up with Nick Chubb.
Love
I
that,
like
John.
it. Kenneth Walker, Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, Justin Fields, Amari Cooper, Miles Sanders, Terry McLaurin, and Damian Pierce. Frankie, you're back on the clock here. Where are you going to go? Where's the what did the draft bring to you, Frankie?
Yeah, so this is really interesting because I'm really fascinated to see how my team turns out. I took Justin Jefferson at 101. Right? Come back around, go Chris Olave, wanted to reach a little bit, maybe not a reach, depending on what you're looking at, but I wanted Mark Andrews. I wanted to see what that looks like. So right now I could go quarterback, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Dak, right? You're looking at running back with JK, Cam Akers, Alexander Madison. I could end up looking at receiver with D-Hop, DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy. For me, John, the way this is looking, I'm going to continue being crazy. And I love being crazy because that's how I roll. So I'm going to go with
crazy, Frank.
I'm fucking crazy, man. So I'm going to go back receiver. And I'm going to go DeAndre Hopkins and then DJ Moore. And now I know it's a 3 receiver league. I have already solidified my flex. I have a top tier tight end who's going to score more than what most other tight ends will score on a weekly basis outside of Kelsey, maybe George Kittle here and there, and Hawkinson. So I love where this is at. Now I just got to figure out my running back spot.
All right. I really going for that zero RB strategy. But Frank, that's in a half PPR, 3 receiver in a flex league. You're in great shape, man.
Yeah.
I mean, great shape. All right. DeAndre Hopkins and DJ Moore, very solid core of receivers there for you. Justin Herbert taken, George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Jerry Jeudy, Trevor Lawrence, and Christian Watson. I'm on the clock. Unfortunately, what I was hoping was going to happen is that either Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence would fall to me. I was really looking at getting that Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley stack. Those guys are on a serious teardrop for me. And now when I'm looking at quarterback, you've got Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Tua, Anthony Richardson. I can wait. You know, this was going to be my spot to get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert. I missed it, so now I need to move on. Running backs, Alexander Mattison, DeAndre Swift, James Conner. I need to go back to the well here with receiver. I've got 2, but again, you're starting basically 4 receivers here at a 3 receiver in a flex league. I'm going to take a shot on a guy that a little bit of a flyer here, but I think he's going to have a really good year 2 in this system. I'm going to go with Drake London. I like him as my 3rd receiver.
Hey, receiver 1, John. Receiver 1 already on a team for the Falcons.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Drake London. All right. And then James Conner, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Lockett, and Chris Godwin. And I am back on the clock here. And really, I'm looking at best available at this point. I've kind of punting on quarterback for a few rounds. Same with tight end as well. Looking at running backs, Alexander Mattison, Swift, like I said, Mike Williams, Brandon Ayuk as receivers. You know what? I do like Brandon Ayuk this year. All reports of him in camp is that he looks great. He's in great shape. Debo, I think that team's going to change just a little bit with Jimmy G leaving and Brock Purdy being there. When Brock Purdy played, he really focused on Brandon Ayuk, and they have a really special connection there. Debo's kind of the short yardage guy. You know, his ADOT is terrible, his average depth of target. Yeah. He gets the bubble screens, he gets the handoffs. But as a true receiver, Brandon Ayuk is really their number 1 as a true wide receiver. And I'm going to take a chance with that. I think he's just got a very high floor with a very good ceiling as well. All right, so I've got Nick Chubb, Najee Harris rounding out my running backs, and I've got a stable of receivers that I really like, some proven guys, some scary guys, and some second-year guys that might make a splash with Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, Drake London, and Brandon Ayuk. Okay, after I took Ayuk, it was Marquise Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Swift, Dalvin Cook, Darren Waller, Alvin Kamara, Jahan Dotson, Alexander Mattison, and Michael Pittman. Frankie, you are on the clock. You do not have a receiver, and you do not, or a running back, and you do not have a quarterback. What are you thinking here?
So, yeah, after going receiver crazy with that of Justin Jefferson, Chris Olave, and then going Mark Andrews and then D-Hop and DJ Moore, definitely going to go running back here. I think this is where I need to start building together some of that. And so when I look at this, I'm looking at Javonte Williams, Rashad White, Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomery, and this is easy for me. This is I am very satisfied with how this is working out, John, because Javonte Williams is who I'm taking here. And with him performing the way he's done in camp, if he ends up doing even half of what he was on pace to do before he got hurt, John, it's going to be phenomenal. So taking him, and again, understanding he's my running back 1, it's a little risky, but I'm going to take then right back after this, a Rashad White, to where I know there's not a lot of competition there in Tampa, and he's going to be the receiving back, especially with that of Baker Mayfield at the helm. So for me, John, I like having this stack pick now of Javonte and that of Rashad White.
I love Javonte Williams. I take him in almost every single draft because you can get him in the 6th, 7th round. I love that. There is a bit of risk there because for some reason he's healthy. I don't know how it's possible, but he is. But I mean, aggravating it again is definitely a worry. But I know what your strategy is going to be. You're going to just hammer running backs now for a couple of rounds. and getting Rachaad White as a solid floor play.
Yes.
Don't love him this year, but we talked about this in our first Would You Rather. Having Rachaad White on your team does give you a nice floor when you've got a riskier player. So you can take some chances with a few other guys now in the rest of the draft, knowing that you've got a nice, safe, 10 to 12 point guy there with some PPR ceiling. All right. After that, Mike Evans, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, George Pickens, Isaiah Pacheco, Dallas Goedert, Mike Williams, and Johnny's on the clock here. I was going to look at taking Darren Waller in the last round there. That is kind of where I've got a teardrop for me. It's a tight end that I target. I typically don't target any others for a couple more rounds. So I'm going to punt there. Quarterback is getting thin. No question about that. You got Tua Tagovailoa, Anthony Richardson, both who I like a lot. And I'm going to look and see the guys behind me here picking next. They've already got quarterbacks. So they've already got Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. They're not going to go for a quarterback here. So I can wait on that for now. And running backs, I'm looking at David Montgomery, James Cook, AJ Dillon. Receivers, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson. Yeah, this is a tough spot, really, man, to be picking because it's definitely kind of a dead zone here. Really, what I'd like to do is just find the best depth option that I can. I'm going to go running back here. We're going to talk about this. It's not a guy that I see with a ton of upside, but I think that he's a very safe play. He's going to have some value on his own. But if anything happens to the other running back, I'm talking about David Montgomery, anything happens to Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery goes absolutely nuclear in that backfield.
Goes crazy.
So, yeah, I'm going to take him as a depth piece and just to make sure that I've got some backup there for Najee and for Nick Chubb. All right, next, Tua Tagovailoa, Kadarius Toney, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, and I'm back on the clock. And that strategy when you look at the guys behind you and say, they've already got a quarterback, they're not going to take one. You get some dipshit with Joe Burrow takes Tua Tagovailoa right in front of me. What an asshole. But you know what? Guys in our leagues do that. I'm going to get a little crazy here, Frank, because there's a guy that I'm really high on. And actually, I'm drafting him to be my backup quarterback. And I'm going to draft another quarterback a little bit later to start. But I love Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
I think that taking him in the 8th round, I think you're kind of swinging to the fences. You're looking for a Lamar Jackson light. You're looking for what Justin Fields did last year. I want a guy who's got ridiculous running ability. He's not a prolific passer, but he could bring in some touchdowns. He can get some yardage on the ground. The guy could run for 1,000 yards. Good. I want to see what happens. He's a ridiculous talent at quarterback. I just want to see what happens. And then maybe I'm going to come back later and grab like an Aaron Rodgers or play that game with you because you don't have a quarterback yet and try to snake somebody from you.
Hey, good.
All right, so good. After Anthony Richardson, Evan Ingram went, then Treylon Burks, Jordan Addison, Antonio Gibson, AJ Dillon, Brandon Cooks, Zach Charbonnet, Pat Freiermuth, and Frankie, you're on the clock. Where are you going, bub?
All right, man. So I got to go back to the well at running back, right? So I have a really awesome foundation with receivers and tight end. When Javonte Williams, Rachaad White, Javonte Williams again is making me, I love where I got him, but just in case I need to fill in that backing of running back. So I'm going to go James Cook. I'm looking at James Cook, Rashad Penny, Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams, Samaje Perine. James Cook to me stands above the rest of those at this point in time. And so to still lock in a guy that is RB1 at his prospective team for Buffalo, yes, he has Damian Harris, but he could still have that reception play that Devin Singletary had, John. So I think he's a really nice running back 3 for the way my team's unfolding. And then lastly here, I'm going to do something crazy. Usually I'd go back to the well at running back, but I'm going to shift gears. There's a quarterback on the board to where I think can also raise my team's ceiling a bit. And I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers, right? So we're looking at Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones. For me, getting an Aaron Rodgers again in the 9th, I mentioned this last week, John, when we were drafting. If he is there in the 9th, I'm taking him. I truly believe his upside is way more than that of the 9th round. And so for that reason, Aaron Rodgers, welcome to Team Legion.
I just said, Frank, that I was looking at drafting Aaron Rodgers later in the draft, and you got to ruin that for me. I appreciate it. All right. All right, so James Cook and Aaron Rodgers on Frankie's team, and Rashad Penny taking Quentin Johnston, David Njoku, Zay Flowers, Brian Robinson, Samaje Perine, Gabe the Babe Davis, and Jamal Williams taken. And I am on the clock. This round of guys, I like most of these guys that were drafted this round. I was targeting all of them. Rashad Penny, Quentin Johnston, David Njoku, Zay Flowers. I love those four guys. I was really hoping one of them was going to fall to me, and they did not, unfortunately. So now what I'm looking at is best available depth for my team. And I definitely see a guy that I'm very high on. You're going to see us talk about him in this week's episode coming up on Wednesday. By the way, click on that card above right now. You can subscribe to our typical podcast that comes out on Wednesdays. I'm going with Khalil Herbert. I think he's also a great value this late in the draft. We're talking 9th round for a starting running back for the Chicago Bears. It had a really nice weekend this weekend as well. Scored a touchdown on a scramble and a little dump pass. I think he's got juice, man. And to get that guy on my team for depth, I absolutely love it.
As your 4th running back for those
my
listening.
4th running back.
Running
exactly.
back 4.
Yeah, exactly. All right, after Khalil Herbert, Juju Smith-Schuster, Michael Thomas, Kirk Cousins, and Devon Achane. I'm back on the clock. I do need a tight end. I really, I think I'm going to do another strategy like I did with the quarterback here. I'm taking a rookie tight end, and I know that's unusual. None of them have ever panned out, ever. But I'm going to take Dalton Kincaid here. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is come back with a veteran. I hate clogging my bench like that, but I'm going to know very soon in a week or two that I can drop one of these guys if I can actually play Dalton Kincaid. So I'm taking him here. All right, then Geno Smith. We've got Williams for Detroit. It's Jameson Williams, yes, who suspended 6 games. Chigankwonkwo, Alan Lazard, Cortland Sutton, Rashad Bateman, Daniel Jones, and Elijah Mitchell to the McCaffrey owner. All right, Frank, you're on the clock here. Where are you going?
All right. So with only a few rounds, guys, I mean, we literally have just 2 rounds left, 3 rounds left.
Yeah, we're not drafting a kicker or a defense. So 3 rounds, 3
guys,
picks.
Right now, I actually need another piece of receiver, right? I have 4 superstar receivers, in my opinion. I need to have a little bit of depth. So what I'm looking at right now is Elijah Moore, OBJ, Adam Thielen, Jacoby Myers. Guys, this is easy. It's Elijah Moore. Getting him in the 10th round, we can say 11th round as my receiver 5 is awesome. I feel super good about that pick. And so now I also need to look at my running back situation again, right? I have Javonte Williams, Rashad White. I have James Cook. And you know what I'm going to do, John? I'm actually going to shore up that Buffalo backfield in case something happens to one or one starts to improve over the other. I want to be able to see how this starts to unfold. So I'm going to double down on this Buffalo backfield and actually draft Damian Harris here to lock that in with that of James Cook.
All right, sounds good. Elijah Moore and Damian Harris. Then we had Odell Beckham Jr., Adam Thielen, Jared Goff, Tyler Algier, Tyler Boyd, Raheem Mostert, Jerick McKinnon, and Dalton Schultz. And I am on the clock. 2 picks left. I did say I have to plan it out here. I did say I wanted to pick up another quarterback at some point here in these 2 picks. And I talked about another backup tight end there, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep Dalton Kincaid, roll him out, and I'm going to play that streaming game if he starts off very, very slow. But Anthony Richardson, I would feel better with another quarterback there. I'm going to bring up Russell Wilson that I can throw out there. I'm going to draft him as a guy that I can start right off the bat and then bring Anthony Richardson in.
Love that.
Yep. Sky Moore was taken. I was actually looking at Sky Moore as a flyer pick. He's one of my favorite late round picks just to see what happens there. Catch lightning in a bottle. Cole Kmet, Kendre Miller, Greg Dulcich. All right. So now I really just want to look at, is there a flyer out there, somebody that might bring some value, maybe a young guy? You know what I am going to do here? This is a guy that had some flashes last year. He's on not a good team. He's got a rookie quarterback. I'm going to go with Nico Collins, though, just in case that there is, some juice there. In case there's a really good connection with CJ Stroud, I think Nico Collins could be an interesting flyer. And if it doesn't work out, it's a guy that I don't feel bad about dropping and playing the waiver wire. All right, then Devin Singletary, Jacoby Myers, Tank Bigsby, Darnell Mooney, Deontay Foreman, Jonathan Mingo, Rashee Rice, and Sam Laporta. Frankie, on your last pick, where are you going here? You need
last pick of the draft.
Anything you want, buddy.
I'm wide open, baby. So last pick of the draft, guys. And again, I just ended up taking Elijah Moore in that of Damian Harris. So my team is looking like that of Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback. I have Javonte and I have Rachaad White as my starting running backs. I have Justin Jefferson, Chris Olave, Mark Andrews, D-Hop, and DJ Moore as my starters. And so right now, I'm just looking for another depth piece. John, there's absolutely a guy that I'm going to take. It's another running back. I want to continue to feed this stable, but it's not a guy that's even on a team yet. I'm going to go with Zeke Elliott. Because what that does for me, just in case, is it gives me a higher floor than what I currently have. And so, again, it's no risk right now. Last pick in the absolute draft. But here's the thing. If he gets signed to a team, he's going to be utilized. It's Zeke, and it's going to be goal line work. So at least I know that I have a certain floor there of where it gives me a little bit of comfortability. And it's no risk.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So let's break this down just a little bit now. That does complete the draft. Frankie, when we're looking at your team, your receivers, they're fantastic. I mean, you really came in there hard in the paint for these receivers, and your tight end with Justin Jefferson, Chris Olave, DeAndre Hopkins all starting. Mark Andrews as the tight end, DJ Moore coming in as your flex. That's beautiful. And then how do you feel about how you ended up with your running backs here?
So I really feel like with the running backs that I had, so again, guys, thinking that's already 5 rounds after what John just mentioned, 5 rounds. Now I'm heading into round 6 with no running back or quarterback or a running quarterback for that matter.
It's a scary place to be.
It's a scary place to be.
It's frightening.
So you make the best that you can. And what I mean by this, you do the best that you can, right? You make the best out of it, because right there, I was looking at Javonte Williams. I'm still looking at Rachaad White. I was looking at Pacheco, David Montgomery. I could have went David Montgomery. That is where my head was at when looking at also Rachaad White. But I went with White just for a little bit more ceiling, I think, is there than that of David Montgomery because of his receiving capability. And he's the only running back. So Javonte Williams being there in this last pick of the 6th round, right? So snaking back to almost the 7th is very interesting, John, because if he is Javonte, my team is primed to potentially be a top 3 team right there. If he is not, it's going to be tough sledding. So the reason why the receivers are so important there, guys, is that I now have tradability to a guy like actually you, John, who has high floor running backs.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback?
Love it. Get him in the 9th round, sitting real sexy. Didn't have to reach for anything crazy. Let your team develop. I liked getting Aaron Rodgers in the 9th there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet right there for you too. All right, I like how that team shook out there. And again, yeah, if Javonte Williams hits, your team is in absolutely great shape. If not, you do have wide receiver depth that you can make a trade for. Yeah. You could start Elijah Moore in your flex and still feel good about that and trade. Hopkins has, a big 2-touchdown game. You could trade his ass. That's not going to stay like that the whole season. All right, cool. Let's take a look at my team here and see what shook out. I wanted to do some crazy strategy, but you got to go with what the draft brings to you. You got to stay water. Pretty balanced here. I did do a couple of unusual things, but running backs I love, starting off with Chubb and Najee Harris, just 2 massive volume guys with big time touchdown upside. Wide receivers, I feel really good about that. Devontae Adams, absolutely a solid pick. Calvin Ridley is definitely a risk, but we're both very high on Calvin Ridley. I do as well. If he hits, my team is going to be in great shape.
Yes.
Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, running out wide receiver 3 and 4, very young guys that are promising. Drake London set for a breakout year. Brandon Ayuk, you saw a breakout last year, and I think he's going to expand upon that as well. Then with some depth pieces in here, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert. I love having those guys on my bench. I mean, I'm not going to play these guys, but I can play Monty when I need to for bye weeks. I can plug him in a great matchup where they're going to be running the ball. Maybe they're playing a terrible run defense. You're going to see Monty in the red zone quite a bit then at that point. Khalil Herbert, exactly the same way. This is a starting running back for the Bears. To have him as a depth piece, I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I draft him everywhere. Where things got interesting for me is the quarterback situation. Taking a big chance with Anthony Richardson, but again, that's a swing for the fences move. I drafted Russell Wilson as well a couple of picks later just to cover me. I'll start Russell Wilson and see how Richardson develops, but it's again trying to catch that lightning in a bottle, man, and just see if this guy's rushing floor gives him enough to be able to bring him into a top 10 quarterback potentially. Dalton Kincaid, taking a chance there as well. Again, it's tight end. If I don't get Darren Waller, I do like to target David Njoku late as well. They were all sniped in front of me, so I wasn't able to do that. So rather than just grab a guy, if I'm going to stream anyway, why not take a swing with Dalton Kincaid? He looks great in camp. Most rookie tight ends don't do it, but again, maybe he is an outlier, and I'm taking the chance that he is. And then I took a flyer with Nico Collins. Again, a guy I can drop after week 1 if he's not doing it. I can play the waiver wire.
Super
all right.
Foundation.
Yeah. Any comments on my team, Frank? What do you think?
No, I think it's great. If you're sitting at 10 overall and Nick Chubb's sitting there and you have the ability to come back and get Devontae Adams, I mean, that is a foundational piece that you can go either way at that point. And so then going right away to Calvin Ridley, I mean, I personally love that, right? Because what you could have also went to was ETN, Joe Mixon, Najee. That's not for me in the third round. I want to take a guy with a super high ceiling at that point in time. And that's what I think you took there, because the other receivers, guys, was that of Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin. I personally think, again, there is a different tier there with Calvin Ridley's upside. Again, we have a little bit of data on this dude, right? We are, we might talk about him a little bit on this week's episode, but there is some really interesting points to where he has performed very, very well prior to him going out and getting hurt or gambling and then having the mental health stay. So I love it, man. I think it's a really good team.
Yeah, I like to try to balance my receivers, the floor and ceiling. I like to try to balance that. I want to get some guys on there that do have a floor, but I also want to throw some of those guys out there like Calvin Ridley with that ceiling. Take some risks. You got to take risks, man.
Yep.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. That is the mock draft. I will stop sharing the screen. Thanks for joining us on Mock Draft Monday. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Frankly Fantasy Football and on Twitter or X at Frankly Fantasy F. And please don't forget, if you like this mock draft, please join us for our regular weekly episodes that come out every Wednesday leading up to the draft. And you can click here to find that. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Look for our episode on Wednesday, dropping our New Faces and New Places Part 2, and that's wide receivers and tight ends. Frankie, anything to share with everybody?
No, sir.
Just extremely wise, stoic, and brilliant as always, Frankie.
Appreciate that, John.
May the fantasy gods smile upon you. Bye.